All right, good evening. Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, a day before Snowmageddon here in Washington, D.C. We're going to get 12 inches of snow tomorrow and another 12 inches on Saturday. But before we get into that, we're going to get into something important, which is Legal Tech. That's the show on Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. And I have myself, Ivan Rakelin, angel investor, startup advisor, and recovering attorney, with fellow recovering attorney as my co-host, Nick Rishwain, who's on the road. He's going to jump in a few minutes. But more importantly, Tatyana Gray is our guest today, which is becoming a friend of mine through social and interaction and through different platforms to include now Voxer, email, etc., etc. And long story short, we've crossed paths at different times at Baker and McKenzie, Moscow. And I think that's how we pretty much established our rapport immediately, right?
Yep. Also a recovering attorney, so yep.
So Tatyana is just to finish up my intro, Tatyana has her own podcast. It's called Angel Investing Podcast, and it's I've listened to almost all the episodes, and what I've heard so far, you've had some heavy hitting players on there within the space, to include Next Gen Angels founder here based out of DC, and some long-term angel investors in the New York scene, and I think in Oregon as well. So you've been expanding your network very well. I'm watching you closely because I really like what you do, and I don't want to steal the thunder. Obviously we're going to talk a little bit about legal tech, but I think I'd like to make it more broad. We can talk about really anything.
Sure.
Since we are attorneys, we can give that slant of transitioning from the legal profession into investing, and then particularly in the legal tech space. So with that, you want to fill in anything I missed?
Well, pretty much a good story. I got into angel investing a couple of years ago, and just kind of doing it in Idaho, flyover state, realized that there's a lot of complaint about not enough capital, and reading the statistics, it just blew my mind away that there are like 9 million people who can be investing in startups, who are accredited investors, and like less than 3% are doing it. So with my podcast, I thought that I can hopefully reach out some of the people who are not investing but able to, and get them excited about it and educated. And so that's how that idea was born. And thankfully, in the startup investing community, as I'm finding out, it's a pretty welcoming community. It's not very hard to network. So I'm, like I said, in Idaho, but I've made lots of connections throughout the West Coast and on the East Coast too, which is kind of surprising. But like you said, Dan Mendes with Next Gen, now they're venture partners. They've changed their name. Since a week ago, maybe.
I've been at net here. It's because I spent so much time at Summit Live with Nick.
Yes,
we've been focusing on the live stream industry.
So yes, so they've changed the name, and we can talk about that. That's actually, I'm thinking about writing a blog or an article on that. Also, Adam Quinton in New York, and a few other people in New York as well. So it's been pretty exciting just getting to know people. Having a platform opens up doors, as I'm sure you're finding out.
Oh, absolutely. Do you find that you pretty much get yes all the time? It's just a matter of when you can interview them, right?
Well, I haven't been told no, but I guess I haven't really reached for the stars.
Right.
So I'm not sure. I haven't had the no yet, but definitely interested in getting. Now I think I have a good base, and it's easier to go to some of the more experienced, I don't know what you call them, star investors, A-list investors,
right? And
show that there is an existing podcast on my end.
I think after 3 months, that's the thing. You have to build your leverage, essentially, your credibility. And I think over 3 months, some of the guests that you've had, I think at this point, you can pretty much leverage those previous guests and show that obviously you're a substantive podcast out there and not just some fly by the seat. I mean, you're programming is much more professional, to be honest, than what I'm doing. I just execute, and I don't like slowing down, and that probably hurts me. But I don't know. I really like what you're doing because you professionalize, the intro, outro, and I'm still working on that myself. But with that said, I wanted to ask you, over the course of it's about 4 months now you've been doing the podcast?
Mm-hmm.
And what would you?
Well, it launched at the end of October, so October, November, December. So it's been 3 months, yeah.
So over the course of 3 months, how much has it benefited you in investing? Just that's a general term, and then we'll go into more specific questions. How has it benefited you by having the podcast?
Well, I get more deal flow, but it hasn't been necessarily something that led to an investment. I don't want to maybe comment on the quality because I haven't had the time to really get in. So I'm definitely getting lots of pitches, but I just haven't with these pitches that are just kind of coming cold pitches by email. It's hard. It's hard to sift through them. It's just easier to kind of focus on pitches that come through your network, which you hear all the time. Advice that is given to the founders. Don't do a cold introduction. Try to find somebody who knows the person you want to look at your stuff. So in that sense, yeah, it has helped because now I'm getting lots of cold pitches through email. But in another sense, it hasn't led to any investments really.
Okay.
It's for me, that's not necessarily bad because I'm trying to kind of keep a cadence. I think it's good for all investors to have something in mind as far as the amounts and the frequency of investing, because it would be so easy with the influx of deal flow with the podcast launch to just go and kind of spend all the money that I'm planning to invest in 1 month, and then kind of you're done. Then you've spent all your money, and you don't have the kind of the desire to be out there in the community and meeting entrepreneurs or other investors. So I think in that regard, it hasn't really changed anything.
I found welcome, Nick. Finally.
Hello. Sorry for the delays and the trouble.
So, no. I gotta always tell this story. So when everybody's, I'm sure this happened at Summit Live, any conference that you go to, any event where you have to have a bunch of people together. Usually, each individual is literally like, how would I call it? Like at the top level, all you see is my calm lips above the water breathing. Meanwhile, underneath the surface is just complete struggle. You've been treading water, just working your butt off just to have your lips above the water to breathe. But all you see when you're above the water is just a calm, treading water. Meanwhile, under the surface, it's just like, I got to get to the show. I have so many other obligations, right?
Yeah,
that.
That's what happened tonight, man. That is exactly what happened.
So we're all trying to hustle to get our kids into bed or get to the computer.
In my defense, I don't think this is the first time. I usually am early, but this, usually I have no commute, but today just didn't work out that way. And I got to tell you, this is kind of funny. Tatyana, I don't know if you have the same experience as Ivan and I here, but we're both, I don't know if you do most of your work from home. If you do, hats off. Do you have full-time gig as well as all this other beautiful stuff?
No, but I do. My podcast right now is taking my time, but I do have an office.
Okay.
That's like half hour away, so I do commute a little bit.
Okay.
Hey, refresh for me real quick, Nick, because there's feedback.
Okay, 1 second.
Yeah, so I think I got him as a host, so you jump in.
So anyway,
that should be better.
Some things just got in the way today, but I was listening, and funny thing is, in Ivan, you'll appreciate this. I was looking for my fellow bald friend on the homepage of Blab, and he had this lovely photo of you, so I could not find our Blab.
Oh, that's why.
Nice.
Yeah.
Why am I going to put my face up when Tatyana is going to be here? Seriously?
Thumbs up. I'm glad you did it. I'm glad you did it.
Oh, that's funny.
So please,
anyway,
back
what
to
we were
the-
talking about before you rudely entered
I know,
as a co-host.
I know.
No. No, as far as the deal flow, actually, I wanted to talk on that real quick. So I use a growth hack tool for Twitter, and I specifically essentially attract folks that would have terms like angel investing, startup sharing economy, legal tech in their Twitter persona. And so it automatically attracts them in my direction. And then as they see my profile, I actually am starting to get on a regular basis, I would say maybe 2 to 3 pitches a day from that. Now, granted, the quality, I mean, it's still yet to be seen. But I think if you have good context, that means you can make better decisions when you actually place your money where your mouth is. Whereas if you only have, I guess, a couple of pitches, yeah, they may be great pitches, but how do you know for sure if you don't have a deep bench of pitches, if you will? Now, granted, you got to balance out with your time, the cost benefit of time. But I still feel like I'm in an early stage where I still have a lot to learn, and I think it's going to be beneficial. And at the same time, if, for example, it's they're legitimate founders, but maybe the company is not there yet, at least you're starting to develop that relationship early with their first venture, so that I'm looking at it from a long-term perspective. Maybe later on, I've already have made that relationship early on in that founder's lifetime, so that later on, when they're in their second or third venture, we can definitely talk. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Anyway, are we ever going to talk about LegalTech?
Let's talk about it.
For sure.
I wanted to hear what Tatyana is working on in her angel investing. If there was some legal tech that you had your eye on, or
WeVorce. Tell us about it.
Yes.
They're going to be on our show next week, right? Or the following week. I saw some commitment.
Yeah, so Michelle is awesome. She's the founder of WeVorce, and definitely, I hope that it works out. She can come on the show when she does. I'd love to jump in and listen in as well. So WeVorce is one of the companies that I invested in, as well as another company called Lean Law.
Yep.
But I can talk a little bit about WeVorce. I guess it's Michelle was an attorney practicing family law, so doing divorces as an attorney, and just from her story, that it's a very hard practice, legal practice, because clients, you can't make them happy. They're in the middle of the divorce, and the legal system is kind of broken. And she just figured a way that create this software. It's an online platform, and it's somehow when people come in, I've never used it, so I'm not sure, but just from the pitches, people can come in, the divorcing couple, and they take some type of a test that profiles them into these different archetypes, and there are over a dozen, I think. And then based on the archetypes, the software can create kind of like a plan for a mediator to walk the couple through the divorce process with the least amount of angst. And so I really like that, because I did practice divorce for a couple years, and it's a tough practice for an attorney, and just seeing the couples that are coming through, and especially the kids, how hard it is on the kids. And so with WeVorce, taking a lot of the angst from the parents, from the divorcing couple, it actually, of course, helps the kids quite a bit. So I really liked what she was doing, because it was bettering such a challenging process in our legal system. And then just kind of seeing some of the snapshots of her software, it looked just really well done. The design, kind of the functionality of it, So I really like the software part of it as well as the legal part of it. And as a computer programmer in my undergraduate years, so the software part really appealed to me as well. So that was kind of like a sweet spot with WeaveWorks. And then meeting Michelle, you hear all the time, bet on the jockey, not the horse. When you guys get to meet Michelle, she's stellar.
Okay.
She's absolutely fabulous. And so actually, when I first learned of WeaveWorks, I joined the Boise Angel Alliance.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, WeaveWorks already raised their seed round, and they weren't looking for investors. But I was just hearing a little bit. I was pretty fascinated about it, and I just wanted to meet Michelle. So I went and met with her. At that point, I didn't know that I would ever invest in the company, if that would be an option. But I offered to connect her with anybody in Utah, because I lived there for a long time, practiced law in Utah, had lots of connections. And so just kind of started a conversation with Michelle by offering my help without even being an actual investor in the company, just doing it because I believed in what the company, what WeaveWorks was doing for the betterment of the whole legal system. And then when the opportunity came, she was raising her bridge round, I jumped in. So that was just kind of, I was like, yay. and now she just raised her Series A round. I believe she's well, don't quote me on it. She was raising a Series A round. I think it closed.
Wow.
So she's doing fabulous.
Interesting. And is it weaveworks.com?
It is.
Yes. Yeah, and so it started as software that actually required an attorney mediator to participate and kind of run the software. But I think right now they're working, or maybe it's available more of a do-it-yourself option. So I think the couples can just kind of take the test. They develop their profiles, and then they don't need an actual attorney mediator. If everything goes smoothly, I think they can just do it themselves. But if they do need somebody to jump in, there is a whole network. Excuse me. Oh, I'm recovering from a cold. I almost had to sneeze. So there is a whole network of WeaveWorks certified divorce professionals.
So the
and then
focus is on divorce, or is the primary focus on salvaging the marriage?
It's divorce.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not counseling. It's not trying to save the marriages. It's actually people who have determined that they are getting divorced.
Okay.
It's just helping that process to run smoother, faster, less expensive.
And they do the dividing of the assets, and they calculate how to divide the assets and so forth?
Yes, and so my understanding is that now she's also expanding the network to include other professionals, where people who go through WeaveWorks for divorce, then they can be referred out to financial planners or accountants or therapists. So it's really getting to be this whole network of family, family practitioners of all sorts.
Nice. Let's not steal her thunder when she comes on.
Yes, exactly. She'll tell you how it is. I'm just, I'm just kind of what I know. Don't quote me on it.
And are you on an advisory board for them, or are you just an investor in this?
I'm just an investor on it. I'm not on the board. She really has some heavy hitters on her board and as her advisors. So they're so much better than me, and I'm just happy to be able to invest. She went, actually, I'm sure she'll talk about it, but just to quickly kind of do a plug as well. She went through Y Combinator, and so she's one of the Y Combinator startups.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's up there. Well, I should say, never heard of it. if you don't know, Nick, because you're not in this space, if you haven't heard of Y Combinator, or whoever's listening afterwards, Y Combinator is essentially the Yale Law School equivalent, or say Harvard Business School, or the Kennedy School of Government version of startups trying to actually be successful and raise their first series of funding. So essentially, it's the top incubator program. I mean, some will argue, but it's one of the top 3 on the planet, essentially. probably the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of them. I watch some of the stuff that they invest in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so for somebody, you know, to be in Idaho, that's probably the only Y Combinator startup that I will ever invest in, unless, you know, I move to the Silicon Valley area. So that is pretty cool.
I don't know. I think at this point, I was going to say that. Do you find it that it's more difficult to, I guess, create deal flow and find folks to invest in being in Idaho, or is it really just a function of if you have a high-speed internet connection or not, and the ability to network?
I think a lot of it has to do with the ability to network, but, you know, I think Silicon Valley is still such a different beast that I don't think I'll ever touch it personally. But, you know, like I said, I've lived in Utah for a very long time, so I network with people in Utah all the time. And invested in one company from Utah, and the other kind of the soft commitment we have is also with a company in Utah.
Okay.
We also travel to Portland, Oregon all the time, so I'm networking there quite a bit, and you know, checking out what's going on in Portland and looking for startups there as well. So I think if you have you know, internet connection, definitely angel list. I mean, yes, I can invest in companies, you know, out of Y Combinator or Silicon Valley companies through angel list. Anybody can, but more of a in-person type of a direct investment. I think, you know, you need to do a little bit more networking for that.
Yeah, that's why I think I'm making it a goal to be out there at least once a quarter in Nick's neck of the woods. Out there in the San Francisco area and Silicon Valley. It's definitely beneficial. But the thing is, I think you can be based out of anywhere and essentially travel there as long as you go to some of the high impact events. I was lucky enough to where it was a 2-week span in October where I was able to really hit essentially 6 conferences back to back in 2 weeks. And then I have some sideline meetings too. So that was huge ROI.
Yeah, that was a great events that you went to when you were out here for that time. You brought us some good guests out of that. Yeah.
And then, but speaking of guests, so as far as deal flow, I find that on Twitter, I will essentially, you know, do the engagement. Someone will reach out to me because it's basically people that I want to engage with deal flow. And then I'll ask them if they want to come on. And it's to be honest, a lot of times it's companies that they hardly even have an angel list profile, or they will just launch it. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, it'll take about 12 months to see how that's been working, but at least I'm getting some sort of interaction and engagement that's relevant to what I'm trying to do with the different shows.
Yeah.
So what else do you have here? Any other legal? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I was going to say, what other legal tech?
We're on the same sheet of music.
Yes.
Do you have your eye on?
Yeah. So right there, you see it says user first software, but it actually, I think that's their, you know, like legal name, but the company is Lean Law. So if you go to leanlaw.co, that's the company. Okay. And so that's another company that we've invested in, and it's an Idaho company. And the founder, Gary Allen, he was an attorney here in Idaho, in Boise, for a long, long time. And he was so frustrated with all the tools for time tracking. And I think one day he just went to a local development company and told the guys there, can you make this tool for me? And so they made this tool for him. And he loved it, and then a couple other attorneys saw it and loved it, and so somebody, I guess, suggested, like, well, why don't you try to sell it? And that's how it turned into this company, Lean Law. And interestingly enough, and I think you were talking to Mary from Tracklight, and I was talking to Mary before about this. You know, lawyers are so they're kind of behind and slow to accept the technology. And when Lean Law came to the Boise Angel Alliance, and that's how I met
about
Lean
11
Law.
of them, right? 11 of us.
Exactly, yes.
Nick had most of them within a Twitter chat earlier this morning.
So but it's true. It's true, unfortunately. So when Gary came to the Boise Angel Alliance and pitched, he actually came a couple times. But the last successful time when he came to pitch, in the room we had, I don't know, 3-4 attorneys. And so as the membership of the Boise Angel Alliance wanted to take lien law to due diligence after the initial pitch, of course, everybody kind of looked at the lawyers to be on the due diligence committee.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as I remember, none of the lawyers wanted to be on the due diligence committee because we pretty much have seen it all, and none of the technology is that great, and we thought that lien law was going to suck, just like the rest of them. So they just strong-armed us into this due diligence committee. What was amazing, and that's what I told Mary, that you have to do with lawyers, I think doing a demo, an actual like live demo, is so important, because the 4 of us, after we've seen the demo from lien law, it was a complete 180. All 4 of us like immediately agreed that this was worth investing, well, at least doing due diligence on.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty amazing that we all were kind of so prejudiced against it, as probably most lawyers are, just prejudiced against new technology. And not until we got to experience it with the live demo is when we changed our minds. And so it was great. I actually was blown away by the software. What it is, let me try to remember. So it helps you, it integrates with Google Docs. And so everything that operates in Google Docs and Gmail, it can keep track, but it doesn't actually, it's not a timer. And I think they were going to work on a timer option, but when they did the demo, it was not. But every email or every document, it just kind of logs that this is what, you worked on this document for this client, or you worked on this email for this client. And it kind of puts it into this scratch pad. And then at the end of the day, you can just drag the entries from the scratch pad onto your timesheet. And then it has a default of, I don't remember, 12 minutes or something.
Okay.
But you can always adjust the default. But it's very, so easy, so intuitive. That was just amazing. And the point of it is that you don't lose these minutes, because lawyers lose so many minutes just switching between like this document, that document. At the end of the day, you probably don't remember 3 of the calls you made, or 5 of the documents you edited. And of course, you can choose whether to bill the client or not for it, but at least you know. And then it also integrates with QuickBooks, and so makes it very easy. Minimum kind of secretarial effort required. And that's why they're calling it lien law, because you really kind of run a lien practice. You don't necessarily need your secretary. You don't do your timesheet by hand. You don't need your secretary to do data entry on your timesheet. Then you don't need somebody in accounting kind of taking it and then doing something with it. It's just done seamlessly. And so I really, again, like kind of software. I was very impressed with the software. And what they're doing for the lawyers, it's not, maybe in the sense, not like WeVorce is really solving somewhere where there is such an emotional pain and angst. But, it's important for attorneys to do correct billing. Yeah.
I like this a lot. I remember and I was working for an old school attorney and doing the billing by hand. They had the billing slips that you. Yeah.
My company policy and my personal policy is paperless.
Oh yeah. This was 15 years ago.
No.
But I agree with the paperless, but that's what I recall, and trying to remember what you did, or to go and do it right before you get started on the next. And are we having these people on next week, Ivan, or are they come? Did we get in touch with these folks yet?
So I sent out a slew of emails this morning.
Yeah.
The movement.
I connected you with them, so I know that I've seen some correspondence.
I saw the correspondence. I was a little overwhelmed with some other with work unrelated to this work today. So, but this is very interesting. I really like this.
Yeah, and the smart thing they started, because they kind of focused on the Google platform, that the attorneys that are using Google Docs and Gmail, that the assumption was that they're more tech savvy, so that they would be more willing to adopt a new product. So I think that was a good assumption on their part. And now I know that they've been developing this product to work on Exchange as well, and so they're taking in all kinds of suggestions. I know that there have been suggestions of integrating, of course, with like Dropbox, but now it does the Google Drive, but also like Dropbox. So they are working like crazy, I think, on kind of incorporating all the suggestions, because lawyers need this stuff, and if I was in practice, I would subscribe and use it. And another piece that they have, they also provide services. So Jonathan, which is another co-founder, he is more in charge of their service piece. And for a monthly subscription, you get so many minutes of tech support. And then I think if you go over it in a month, it switches to billed by minute or something. But it doesn't have to be lien law related. It can be anything related to legal tech.
Okay.
So it's kind of like two-sided product.
So as far as the answer, Michelle, her last email earlier today, she wants to do it, who's the founder of Lien Law, but she's got to look at her schedule. So maybe in a few weeks we'll have her on.
Excellent. Yeah, this one, I got to tell you, Tatyana, out of all the ones that we've done now, which is 10 or probably 8 or 10 different, this one excites me.
Okay.
This is a cool idea. I can get behind. This is one that I can really get behind.
That's great. Yeah. And I mean, they're great guys. And like I said, Gary was in full-time practice for a long time. He was a partner, very well respected. But one of the kind of conditions for funding was that the investors wanted him to run this full-time. So he is running this full-time.
Very cool.
Nice.
Excellent. So what else have we got on the LegalTech platform? Any other that are maybe not necessarily ones you've invested in, but anything you're looking at that you find interesting or fascinating?
Well, of course, there is like Hire and Esquire. I've talked to the founder, also Mary, and you guys, I think I connected you to her, Ivan. She was on one of the emails.
Yes.
Would be cool if you can have her. But this whole idea of kind of like on-demand legal services, which goes to both sharing economy as well as legal tech, that's pretty fascinating for me. I guess, it's probably contract work, because of the licensing requirements. I'm sure that it's more of a contract type of work. So I'm pretty excited that it's out there. I'm not sure if they're raising money or not at this time, but something that a company that I admire just for what they're doing. One of my law school classmates, she was a year ahead of me, Melissa Butler, I connected Ivan. No, I have not connected Ivan to her yet, but I ran into her at the bar convention this past summer, and she is working on an e-discovery startup, and it came out of her own, again, I love the stories when it comes out of their own kind of struggles and problems, and whether it's in their law practice or, in their daily routine. So she is a general counsel for a big construction company, and I think they do a lot of e-discovery, and so it's just overwhelming with the amount of paperwork that they have to work with. And so she's launching, again, kind of her tool. I think she's thinking about making it a standalone company. And so I don't know the name of it. I don't know if she does have a name for it, because I think it was developed kind of as a tool for her own purposes. But I'm staying in touch with her, and I'll connect you guys to her if she's ready to maybe come and talk about it. So there's another possibility. But I try to stay up on top of kind of a little bit of legal tech, but I've been, pulled in so many directions that I can be better. And trying to keep my portfolio diversified, which everybody should do. I don't want my whole portfolio to be legal tech, so I'm interested in other areas as well.
Sure.
I really like, if anything is related to kind of like children. One of the companies that we invested in is related to children products or health. I really like healthcare, digital health, digital IT. My husband also participates not as active as me, but he really likes manufacturing. So I'm kind of interested in manufacturing as well. So it's hard. It's hard to keep tabs on so many areas at once.
Yeah, I agree. That's the full-time job in and of itself.
So my goal for 2016, since we're on the on-demand and legal space, I would like to actually, I put in a link in there. If we can get all of those companies, the founders, to come on and talk about their differentiating model of the legal, I guess, the on-demand legal platforms that are out there. And you can
I'm
see
looking at it.
You got Avo. The ones that I'm aware of was it Abo, Hire and Esquire, the Legal Hero, LegalZoom, Rocket Lawyer, and UpCounsel. Some of the other ones I haven't really looked in depth, but there's quite a few of them listed there in that blog post. It's called the Lawyering Blog.
I know of UpCounsel, Rocket Lawyer, LegalZoom, Law Dingo. All right, good. This is a better list than the last one you gave me, and I can go after
That was essentially why I gave it to you, because
I know I know exactly what you're doing here. I don't have enough things going on. Let me hunt down 20 other people.
Yeah, speaking of WeVorce, I believe they have a partnership with LegalZoom as well. So ask Michelle about her connections at LegalZoom.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what else. I've heard of some of these, like Rocket Lawyer, of course, LegalZoom, UpCounsel, I've heard of them, Hire and Esquire. But the rest of them are not familiar to me.
So I met the Avo team in San Francisco in October, and then I believe it was Hire and Esquire I met out at New York Tech Day, or actually no, Legal Hero.
Legal Hero, and we had Congo IO.
Right, we've had Congo, and they're not listed here. I think they're beyond this. Like they were established afterwards.
Okay, yeah. They were cool though. They had some ideas.
Yeah. Cool.
And then I've got coming up. You got the image I sent you, Ivan, of the Excelis. Let me find them.
There's another company. I don't know if it guys would fall under. I think it should. Something Citizen out of Utah. I watched them at some of the demo days. Simple Citizen. It's a great company. I really appreciate what they're doing. Let me see. Yes, Simple Citizen. If you guys think that they qualify under LegalTech, which I think they do, I can try to find somebody that I might know somebody there.
Oh, digital immigration and visa solution.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
And they're from Utah.
Always like the Jason Calacanis video feed. Right? The web design.
I got a good response for upcoming from this Excelis technology today.
Okay. Is that what you're referring to with the 5-minute response?
Yeah, probably. I was probably doing too many things, but yeah, I got a good response from them. I shot you an image to your Voxer.
Yes. That's the one. Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah. So they do IT for law firms of all sizes. I don't know that they're necessarily a startup, but they're in the legal tech and willing to come on and tell us what they're doing and how they're doing it different from others.
Great. Yeah. We got them lined up. So, well, hey, what time is it right now? We're approaching 45 minutes. I think we covered quite a bit tonight. Alex, since you're in here listening in, you have any questions?
None from me.
None from the lurkers. That's cool. No, so you guys want to talk about anything else before we sign off?
I'm good. Hey, will you email me though everything not to work address but to the Yahoo address so we can so I can keep the two separate?
Do you want me to send you only to your Yahoo address?
Yeah, for now.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Got it.
That'll be best for
I do have
no commingling.
no commingling.
I do have a question, but we can do it after you stop recording. It's not super legal tech related.
Got it. Yeah, because I have another one that I want to follow up with you on. All right, so yeah, another episode in the can. Legal Tech with the lovely Tatyana Gray, recovering lawyer.
With my Jackson Hole 50 years anniversary skiers, perfect place to ski.
Oh, I love skiing, but we're gonna get some snow in the next 2 days. All right, so I'm Ivan Raiklen signing off. If you want to follow up and see what we're up to, I'm at Raiklen.com, and Nick Rishwain.
Take it away. Rishwain. Thank you for coming, Tatyana. We really appreciate your time.
All right.
Thank you so much.